Imagine inheriting a sprawling, ancient manor. For Edward Hale, a young architect from London, it was a dream come true. Blackthorn Manor, a forgotten relic crumbling with untold stories, was his for the taking. He saw it not as a ruin, but as a masterpiece waiting to be reborn, a project that would define his career. But some places aren't meant to be restored. Some places hold on to their past. As Edward stepped over the threshold, a chill snaked up his spine, a cold that had nothing to do with the damp, dusty air. The grand entrance hall was cavernous, its Gothic arches disappearing into shadow. But what struck him as truly odd was the mirrors. Every single one, from the smallest hand mirror in a forgotten boudoir to the colossal, ornate looking glass in the main hall, was draped in thick black cloth. It was as if the house was hiding its own reflection, terrified of what it might see. Curiosity piqued, Edward ventured into the nearby village, a quaint collection of stone cottages nestled in the valley below. He hoped to hire some local help to learn about the manor's history. But the moment he mentioned the name Blackthorn, a shuddered look fell over the villagers' faces. Doors were quietly closed. Conversations abruptly ended. Whispers followed him down the cobbled streets, words he couldn't quite catch. The only thing he got was a cryptic warning from the old innkeeper. "Some doors are best left unopened, son." The name Blackthorn Manor was a curse, a taboo spoken only in hushed, fearful tones. Returning to the manor, the silence felt heavier, more oppressive than before. But it wasn't the silence that truly unnerved him. It was the sounds that broke it. Each night, just as the last light of day bled from the sky, a soft, rhythmic knocking would begin. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the east wing, a section of the house that, according to the brittle blueprints he'd found, had been sealed off for over a century. The corridor leading to it was bricked up, solid and impenetrable. Yet the knocking persisted, a ghostly heartbeat from a part of the house that shouldn't exist. Driven by a mix of architectural curiosity and a growing sense of dread, Edward took a sledgehammer to the wall. Dust and mortar flew as he broke through, revealing a dark, musty passage. The air that rushed out was stale, trapped for decades. He followed the corridor, his flashlight beam cutting through the oppressive darkness until he reached a heavy oak door. It creaked open into a nursery. The room was a perfect time capsule, untouched by the decay that had claimed the rest of the manor. A layer of fine dust covered everything like a funeral shroud. Tiny wooden toys sat on shelves, waiting for a hand that would never come. A small, elegant crib stood in the corner, its canopy yellowed with age. And in the center of the room, a single wooden rocking chair. As he watched, it began to move. Slowly, rhythmically, it swayed back and forth, as if an unseen mother was still lulling her child to sleep. A cold spot formed in the center of the room, and the gentle rocking continued, a silent, heartbreaking lullaby in a dead room. Shaken, Edward retreated to the manor's dusty library, desperate for answers. He spent days poring over brittle family journals, faded letters, and local records. A tragic story began to emerge, piece by painful piece. Blackthorn Manor had once belonged to Lady Margaret Blackthorn and her young son. The journals spoke of a doting mother, a woman whose entire world revolved around her child. Then tragedy struck. The boy died suddenly, a fever that swept through the house like a phantom. Lady Margaret was consumed by a grief so profound it bordered on madness. The last entries in her diary were frantic, filled with strange symbols and references to ancient rituals. Local legends, which Edward had initially dismissed as folklore, told a darker tale. Some said Lady Margaret, unable to let her son go, made a pact with something ancient and dark to keep his spirit tethered to the manor, to keep him with her for eternity. Others whispered that her grief was so powerful, she simply refused to die, her spirit becoming a permanent, sorrowful fixture of the house she could never leave. Her body was never found. She had simply vanished. One night, a fierce storm raged outside, rattling the old windows and screaming through the eaves. The house groaned around him, the sounds of the wind and rain mixing with the now familiar knocking from the east wing. Emboldened by a mix of fear and whiskey, Edward decided he'd had enough of the secrets. He marched into the grand hall, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. He stood before the largest mirror, the one draped in heavy, velvet-like cloth. His hands trembled as he reached up and grabbed the fabric. With a single, decisive pull, he tore the cloth away. For a moment, he saw nothing but his own reflection, a pale, wide-eyed man staring back from the dusty glass. But then the image flickered. His reflection wavered, and a shape began to form behind him. It was a woman, tall and gaunt, dressed in a black, high-collared gown from another era. Her face was a mask of sorrow, her eyes dark, hollow pits of despair. Lady Margaret Blackthorn. She wasn't a reflection. She was there, standing right behind him, so close he could feel an icy coldness on the back of his neck. Her lips, pale and thin, parted, and a whisper slithered into his ear, a sound like dry leaves skittering across gravestones. "You shouldn't have come back." The words weren't a warning. They were a pronouncement. Before Edward could even scream, a spiderweb of cracks erupted across the surface of the mirror. The glass fractured, but it didn't fall. Instead, from within the cracks, a faint ethereal light began to glow. And in that light, he saw them. Faces, hundreds of them. Silhouettes trapped within the glass, their eyes wide, their mouths open in silent screams. Men, women, children, all the past visitors, the lost souls, the curious and the unfortunate who had come to Blackthorn Manor and never left. They were all staring out at him, their ghostly eyes filled with an eternity of waiting for the next visitor to join their silent, glassy prison. And as the last shard of his own reflection vanished, Edward Hale realized the knocking had finally stopped. He was home. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next descent into darkness. Let us know in the comments what you think happened to Edward. Until next time, stay curious.